Hello, history lovers. Get ready for an exciting journey to the heart of ancient Rome, where we will encounter extraordinary encounters that will make you feel as if you're living in an epic of love and conquest. Imagine a world where hearts intertwine at opulent banquets, where young Romans in elegant togas seek not only to conquer but also to understand the true meaning of love amidst strict rules and traditions. Have you ever wondered what it was like to fall in love in a place where status and education were so important? Or what tricks these Romans used to win the heart of someone special? In this adventure, we will discover how passion and strategy intertwined in captivating stories that resonate to this day. Together, let's unravel the secrets of this fascinating society, where every glance and every gesture mattered, and where the quest for true love was one of the greatest conquests of all. Get ready, because this experience promises emotions, laughter, and even timeless lessons about what it really means to love. If you love this introduction to the fascinating world of ancient Rome and want to continue following amazing stories like this, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Click the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss any new historical adventures. Let's explore more about this universe filled with love, conquest, and learning together. Hello, and welcome to this captivating account of ancient Rome, where we will investigate the extraordinary and sensational encounters that shaped love and conquest in the daily life of this powerful empire. Have you ever wondered what relationships were like back then? What did people value? And what tactics were used to win someone's heart? Get ready to uncover the Roman world, where romance and strategy intertwine in such intriguing ways that even the most romantic among us today could admire. Love in ancient Rome was not just about feelings, it was deeply rooted in social expectations and cultural norms. The Romans valued eloquence, education, and status, all essential components for forming a lasting relationship. In fact, many relationships were careful transactions, often influenced by political and social alliances. However, even within this context, there was room for passion, romance, and ultimately, true love. Let's begin by examining the historical context that shaped these relationships. In ancient Rome, the family was the foundation of society and played a crucial role in all aspects of life. Women, in particular, had well-defined and significant roles. They were responsible for managing the home and family, with their skills in household management often admired. Yet, these women could also wield considerable influence in social and political decisions, especially through strategic marriages. Roman women, often depicted in elegant togas adorned with jewelry, were seen as symbols of virtue and honor. Although they often depended on their fathers or husbands for social status, their opinions could sway famous senators and generals of the time. Imagine a typical Roman family, a diligent woman tidying up the house, decorating the rooms with fresh flowers while discussing marriage strategies with her friends. They would exchange ideas about the importance of choosing husbands from prominent families, aware that each choice was a move in the grand game of Roman social politics. Society was filled with expectations and strict norms. A woman's position, though limited in many respects, was vital for the transmission of values and family legacies. Mothers were the guardians of morality, teaching their daughters the duties and virtues they would need to adopt in the future. The complexity of Roman relationships reveals much about the social dynamics of the time, where love and strategy walked hand in hand. Imagine yourself in the bustling streets of Rome, surrounded by magnificent marble buildings and imposing columns reaching toward the sky. The aroma of baked sweets and fresh wine wafts through the air, while the lively voices of citizens fill the surroundings. Gatherings in ancient Rome were elaborate events, steeped in traditions and etiquette, where every detail mattered. Banquets, for instance, were an essential part of Roman social life and served as the perfect setting for encounters. In large halls adorned with luxurious tapestries, guests reclined on low thrones, enjoying delicious dishes served abundantly. As the serenade of harpists filled the air, glances and smiles were exchanged among people seated in different groups. The wine flowed, and with it, conversations became more intimate, creating opportunities for subtle flirting. Picture a young patrician, dressed in an impeccable toga, sitting next to a beautiful lady. With carefully groomed hair and undeniable charm, he seizes every moment at the banquet to impress her with tales of his adventures and accomplishments. She, laughing shyly, watches his eloquent manner of expressing himself, while his close friends whisper praises about his talent for seduction through words. But encounters were not limited to banquets. Religious festivities and lavish fairs were also special occasions. Young Romans gathered in the squares, where dances and music created a vibrant atmosphere. Amid laughter and celebrations, hearts warmed. Women, dressed in their finest tunics, danced in circles, while men, seeking to win their interest, offered flowers or sweets as a form of courtship. One young Roman lady, named Lucia, was a favorite among the young men in the city. At one of these festivals, while dancing under the glow of torches, she found herself surrounded by admirers. One of them, a passionate poet, decided it was his chance. With an enchanting smile, he recited a poem he had written especially for her, his voice sounding like music to her ears. The warmth of the crowd and the energy of the moment created the perfect backdrop for mutual enchantment. What struck the most about these encounters was the skill with which people flirted, even in an environment so focused on social norms. Every gesture, every glance, and every word was exchanged with intention, a delicate dance where passion and strategy intertwined. The Romans, with their rich and complex culture, managed to find ways to express their feelings and connect, even under the watchful eye of society.
Imagine that you are a young Roman, filled with dreams and ambitions, standing by the banks of the Tiber, watching the boats pass by, each carrying goods and stories from distant lands. You have one goal in mind, to win the heart of the most beautiful young woman in Rome, Flavia, known for her intelligence, beauty, and noble lineage. The challenge is great, but you know that in ancient Rome, the art of courtship is as much about strategy as it is about feelings. First, you decide that you need a plan. Romans were masters of strategy, and you can't help but apply this wisdom to matters of love. After all, it was common for Roman women to be courted with grand gestures and symbolic offerings. So, you begin your quest for a gift that will impress Flavia. After much thought, you remember the bottles of perfume imported from Arabia, renowned for their intoxicating scent. With a bit of saving, you manage to buy a bottle, and with a dash of boldness, you decide to leave the gift in her favorite spot, the marketplace, where she often strolls. As Flavia walks through the market, she discovers the bottle wrapped in a golden ribbon. Her curiosity is piqued, and upon opening the gift, the exotic fragrance envelops her, conjuring images of faraway adventures. She searches for the author of this special gesture, and in moments, your eyes meet. It's you, with a shy smile that conceals the anticipation of a new beginning. Knowing that first impressions are crucial, you introduce yourself. Remembering the lessons from your mentor, you employ a mix of subtle compliments and information about your family, highlighting your good intentions and the respectability of your name. You also share stories of your accomplishments, but with a humility peppered with humor. Flavia, intrigued and enchanted, starts to warm up to the idea of getting to know you better. Over time, your encounters become more frequent. You invite her to social events, such as gladiator games or temple celebrations. Each meeting is carefully orchestrated, from choosing to sit near her to asking questions that spark her curiosity about history and philosophy. After all, you know that grounding the conversation in knowledge generates greater interest. Flavia, drawn not only by your charm, appreciates the attention you give her and your ability to involve her in stimulating discussions. On a memorable night, under the starlit sky, you decide it's time to take a step forward. You choose a romantic setting, a small garden adorned with flowers and the soft glow of lanterns. With a gentle gesture, you take her hand, your hearts racing in unison. Then, that suspended tension melts away as you whisper promises of a future together, making her laugh and dream at the same time. Flavia smiles, and you know that through enchantment tactics, sincerity, and humor, you have not only captured her heart but created a genuine bond. In ancient Rome, courtship was an art that went beyond words. It was a weaving of stories, consideration, and affections that, when executed well, transformed into a lasting love.
In the splendid city of Rome, where the streets glowed with the soft light of the setting sun, there lived a young woman named Flavia. The daughter of a prosperous merchant, Flavia grew up in a household where she learned early on about women's roles in Roman society. Her future seemed preordained: to marry a man of good standing, manage the household, and raise children. However, deep within her heart, there burned a desire for something greater. During her rare moments of freedom, Flavia often strolled along the banks of the Tiber, watching the gentle waves and dreaming of the life she wished to lead. She frequently listened to her friends recount stories of arranged marriages, where love was merely a convenience. Why can't love be the foundation of a marriage? Flavia wondered, envisioning a companion who would be not just a husband, but a true partner. One day, at a gathering hosted by a family friend, Flavia noticed a young Roman named Caio. He was charming, with a gaze that exuded confidence. Upon hearing his voice, Flavia felt a shift within her. They exchanged glances and smiles, and the chemistry between them was undeniable. Yet, Flavia was aware that, for Caio, her worth was not solely as a woman but also as a potential wife who could elevate his family's status. In the weeks that followed, Flavia and Caio began to meet in secret, away from the prying eyes of high society. With each encounter, Flavia found herself increasingly captivated by Caio's intellect and sense of justice, as he shared his own frustrations about societal expectations. Women are seen as property or investments, rather than companions, he expressed sincerely. These words resonated deeply with Flavia, who longed to be more than just a symbol of status in someone's life. However, reality soon began to intrude. Social pressures started to weigh heavily on their relationship. Caio faced pressure to marry a woman from an influential family to secure advantageous alliances. Flavia, too, understood that her beauty and intelligence might not be enough to convince him to stray from that traditional path. The expectations bore down on both of them, making each glance shared between them heavy with silent sadness. On a starry night, as they met by the banks of the Tiber, Flavia finally revealed her true feelings. Caio, if you marry just to fulfill expectations, you will never find true happiness. I don't want to be just a choice, I want to be your partner. With these words, Flavia articulated the pain of being treated as a political pawn, and the vulnerability of her statement liberated her from her own constraints. Caio, moved by her heartfelt expression, gazed into Flavia's eyes and replied, "You inspire me to envision a world where love and partnership are the bedrock of relationships. I refuse to merely conform to the roles imposed on us." Their bond deepened, yet the fear of repercussions still loomed over them. Ultimately, Flavia had a bold idea. Fueled by a desire to shape her own destiny, she proposed that they marry, but under terms that differed from traditional expectations. In their union, she wanted her voice to be heard, her opinions respected, and to collaborate with Caio on every aspect of life. "Let our marriage be a celebration of love and mutual respect," she asserted resolutely. Despite facing resistance from their social circles, Caio decided to stand up for her. He confronted his family, explaining that love and equality outweighed the need for conformity. With bravery, he challenged the status quo, and together, Flavia and Caio emerged as symbols of change. When they finally married in a small, intimate ceremony, the joy that erupted between them resonated beyond the walls of their home. Flavia realized that by defying societal expectations, she was fighting not just for herself, but for all women who were expected to conform. Their marriage not only opened a new chapter in their lives, but also inspired many who yearned for a life of equal love. The story of Flavia and Caio spread throughout Rome, reminding everyone that even in an age of rigid traditions, love could forge new possibilities and redefine the roles of women and men in society. Thus, Flavia learned that by remaining true to her ideals of genuine love, she could indeed shape her own destiny and inspire others to do the same. In the intricate tapestry of Roman society, male expectations in romantic relationships reflected not only cultural norms but also issues of power and status. The Roman man was often regarded as the head of his family, a role that went far beyond being merely a financial provider. Love and devotion to a partner were frequently overshadowed by the social and political demands that shaped his identity. From an early age, boys were educated to understand their roles as protectors and leaders, which directly influenced their approach to relationships. When a young Roman, like Marcus, the son of a senator, began to contemplate marriage, he recognized that the choice of his wife was an extension of his personal identity and familial reputation. Marcus understood from a young age that if he were to choose a woman, he needed to consider not only her beauty but also her social standing and the potential she brought to strengthen political alliances. Marriages were often arranged, and romantic love, as understood by the Romans, was frequently viewed as secondary or even irrelevant. Instead, social and political compatibility took precedence. Women were seen as pieces on an expansive chessboard where the primary objective was the acquisition of power and prestige. At social occasions, such as banquets or festivals, Roman men often displayed their wives and daughters as symbols of their success. A respected man was one whose family reflected wealth and authority, meaning he needed to find a woman who not only fit this mold but also helped him maintain his position. The concept of true or equal love was often sacrificed in favor of personal and familial ambitions. However, while many men conformed to these expectations, there were those who yearned for something deeper. Young Lucius, a friend of Marcus, often pondered the value of love. In secret meetings with Flavia, a strong-willed and opinionated woman, he experienced a joy that transcended social obligations. He began to realize that happiness in a relationship could emerge from partnership and mutual respect rather than mere social convenience. Nevertheless, the pressures on men like Marcus and Lucius were immense, and the pursuit of emotional sincerity was often perceived as a sign of weakness. Marcus's friends mocked his desire for emotional involvement. A real man would be wiser to seek alliances and wealth, not love. They discouraged him from deviating from what they considered true masculinity, which emphasized strength, control, and domination. The conflict between societal expectations and personal desires intensified as men found themselves divided between what was expected of them and what they genuinely wanted. While many felt pressure to conform and adhere to norms, others like Lucius began to rebel against the constraints imposed by culture. In this context, relationships that challenged conventions began to emerge. Alliances based on love and mutual respect started to surface, albeit on a smaller scale. Lucius determined that, despite his family's disapproval, he could not find happiness in a loveless marriage. He summoned the courage to commit to Flavia, who shared his aspirations and understood his struggles, creating a bond that was not only personal but also an emotional alliance that defied societal conventions. The story of Lucius and Flavia began to inspire other men to reassess their own expectations and desires, illuminating a new ideal of masculinity. They showed that there could be space for genuine love in relationships, illustrating that a man could be strong while also possessing empathy and respect for his partner. Thus, while male expectations in ancient Rome often dictated control and dominance in relationships, the voices of men who longed for love and companionship began to resonate, paving the way for new perspectives on masculinity and the dynamics between men and women. These new ideals could, one day, create a society where love and partnership were more than mere words, but a reality to be embraced. It was a sunny morning in Rome, and the streets were alive with activity. Merchants shouted their offers, and women adorned with shining jewelry passed by, attracting the attention of many. Among them was Publius, a young Roman whose charm and persuasion were as famous as some of the most notable gladiators. He was about to enter a competition not just for power, but for the heart of Lucia, a woman of great beauty and intelligence. Publius knew that winning over a Roman woman required more than just good looks. He needed strategy and creativity. So, he prepared to employ the tactics that many Roman men before him had successfully used. Publius began his journey by approaching Lucia at a lively banquet, where conversations flowed like wine. He understood that the ability to capture her attention lay in the art of conversation. With a confident smile, he began discussing fascinating topics ranging from philosophy to poetry, something that Lucia immensely appreciated. "Have you read the works of Catullus?" he asked, winking playfully. By connecting with her interests, he not only sparked Lucia's curiosity but also created a bond that transcended the superficial. After establishing a positive first impression, Publius decided that a small gesture of appreciation was necessary. However, instead of opting for extravagant gifts like many of his rivals, he chose something more personal. The next day, he left Lucia a simple wildflower, one she had mentioned in their previous conversation. This highlighted not only his attention to detail but also the individuality of his affection. A crucial factor in Roman relationships was status. Publius made sure to introduce Lucia to some of his most influential friends, creating an image of power and prestige around her. "Lucia, this is Julia, my friend and a poetess. She would love to hear your thoughts on the new work circulating in Rome," he said with a touch of praise. This technique not only elevated Lucia's status in society but also made her feel valued and respected. Publius also utilized the strategy of the friend. He made himself present during moments when Lucia needed support or comfort, whether after a night filled with murmurs about her parents' arranged marriage or during her concerns about life. By being a trusted friend, Publius cultivated a deep sense of intimacy between them. He listened attentively to her worries, validating her feelings and demonstrating that he was genuinely interested in what she thought. Mindful of the social conventions of his time, Publius sought to create a memorable moment. On a full moon night, he organized a romantic outing on the Tiber River, decorating a boat with flowers and candles. As he gently rowed, he recited love sonnets, blending the enchantment of the moment with his words. That night would not easily be forgotten, and the romance helped Publius transform their friendship into something deeper. Aware that he was not the only one interested in Lucia, Publius also engaged in friendly competitions, such as chariot races and board games, where he showcased not only his skills but also his character. He knew that Roman men often wanted to prove their bravery. By standing out, he hoped to show Lucia that he was a man of courage and dignity. By combining these techniques of seduction and romance with a touch of sincerity, Publius managed to create a strong bond with Lucia. After weeks of careful attention, meaningful conversations, and shared moments, it became clear that Lucia was not only attracted to his physical presence but also to his intelligence and consideration. Finally, on a sunny afternoon, Publius confessed his feelings. Lucia, every moment I've spent by your side has made me realize that the value of true connection is deeper than any arrangement our parents might make. I wish to be not just your lover but also your partner in life. Upon hearing this, Lucia's eyes sparkled, and she smiled, touched by his sincerity. The two became a symbol of authentic love in ancient Rome, challenging social norms and showing that behind the armor of power and status were universal human desires for love and partnership. Publius not only won Lucia's heart, he also became part of a new tradition, one where love could flourish in a world often dominated by politics and convenience. Amidst the magnificent splendor of ancient Rome, where imposing columns supported temples and the murmur of citizens filled the streets, life was marked by strict social norms. The noble families often decided the future of their children by arranging marriages with the promise of strategic alliances and wealth. However, within this tradition, there also burned a vibrant flame of romantic love that challenged conventions. At the heart of this dilemma were Lucius and Aelia. Lucius, a young aristocrat with a rebellious spirit, was an advocate for the freedom to love. Aelia, on the other hand, was an intelligent and apolitical young woman, the daughter of an influential senator who had already been promised in marriage to a wealthy patrician with a respectable reputation. Destiny intervened when Lucius and Aelia met at a banquet, where tables were filled with delicacies and wine flowed freely. It was amidst elegant conversations and soft music that Lucius caught sight of Aelia. He was captivated not only by her beauty but also by the light in her eyes, a testament to her brilliant mind. "Have you read Ovid's poems?" Lucius asked, initiating a conversation. Aelia smiled, admiring his audacity. "Yes, and in fact, I believe love is an enigma that even the wisest have failed to unravel," she replied, her words dancing like the lights around them. They spent hours conversing, intertwining their views on love, freedom, and dreams. Every laugh and exchanged glance created an irresistible connection, defying the norms imposed by society. However, reality was not far behind. When news of Aelia and Lucius's involvement reached their parents, a scandal erupted. Aelia's father, fearing to dishonor the family's name, insisted on confirming her arranged marriage to Quintus, a senator of notable influence. Aelia found herself torn between familial duty and the love that was beginning to blossom in her heart for Lucius. One dark night, while walking by the Tiber, Aelia found Lucius waiting for her with an accelerated heart. "We must fight for this," he said, his voice filled with determination. "Why should we submit to a fate we did not choose?" Determined not to lose Aelia, Lucius devised a bold plan. He decided to approach her father in an effort to convince him of the importance of romantic love. "Sir," he declared at a tense meeting, "this is not just about wealth or influence, it is about true love, which is the foundation of any lasting union. If Aelia does not love someone, how can you expect her to be happy? The impact of his words was profound, making Ilia's father reflect. Although tradition and prestige were essential, the idea of a union based on true love began to take root in his mind. As the days passed, Ilia and Lucius continued to meet secretly. They devised plans for the future, dreaming of a life where they could be free to love. One moonlit night, Lucius took Ilia to a hidden corner of the forum, where they could confess their feelings. "Ilia, my love for you surpasses any political alliance. I would rather live a simple life by your side than be a rich man without love. Will you marry me?" Ilia smiled, her eyes shining with emotion. "Yes, Lucius, I want to live and love genuinely, not be a pawn in a power game." At that moment, under the starry sky, they sealed their commitment with a passionate kiss, deciding to fight for the love they felt for each other. The story of Lucius and Ilia not only challenged tradition but also inspired many young Romans to question their own circumstances. As a symbol of romantic love, they became an example that, although arranged marriages were common, true love had the power to conquer even the most impenetrable barriers. Time passed, and although society continued to change slowly, the legacy of Lucius and Ilia lived on in the memories of all who heard their story, reminding that romantic love, when genuine, was an unparalleled force against the rigid norms of tradition.
During the grand era of ancient Rome, where the empire stretched like a tapestry of conquests and culture, love was a powerful force that shaped lives. The Romans cultivated deep romances, but rules and social norms often limited the emotional freedom of men and women. Today, as we navigate a multifaceted world full of diversity and individuality, modern love offers new possibilities but also presents challenges. In this narrative, we will explore what has changed and what remains immutable in the human heart. In the elegant halls of Roman villas, Cicero, a young orator, found himself captivated by Livia, a young woman from a patrician family. However, familial expectations and social obligations turned their love into a clandestine passion. With whispers in the shadows and furtive meetings, their glances crossed among luxurious parties, where the freedom to love was constrained by social class. "To love is like debating in the Senate," Cicero confided to a friend one night over wine. "It's a struggle for choice, but also for approval. How can I win her heart when everyone expects me to marry a woman of equal lineage?" Livia, for her part, felt trapped, in love with someone who did not meet her family's expectations. "I dream of freedom," she confessed to a friend. But freedom seems so distant when love is seen as a power alliance, not as a connection of souls. Fast forward to today, we find a society that values the freedom of choice and autonomy but also faces new challenges. Sophia, a young writer in New York, is living a modern romance with Ethan, a passionate artist who defies conventional norms. They meet in a bohemian cafe, where conversation flows as freely as the strong coffee they savor. "I want my love to be based on authenticity," Sophia asserts, looking at Ethan with intensity. "I don't want society to dictate how we should love. It's about the emotional connection we create, not about the expectations surrounding us." Ethan agrees, saying, "Love should set us free, not imprison us. After all, every true love should be an expression of who we really are, without masks." Roman romances were often surrounded by conventions, where marriages were arranged and clandestine passions remained in the shadows. Libido and tenderness were carefully balanced, but open communication was rarely an option. Cicero and Livia found themselves in a web of familial and political intrigue, where their emotions were stifled by social obligations. In contrast, modern romances like Sophia and Ethan's are governed by a desire for authenticity and expression. They openly discuss the challenges in their relationships, delving deeply into their emotions and desires. However, even in the contemporary world, social pressures, such as professional success and family expectations, can create tensions in relationships. While Roman expectations required the sacrifice of passion for strategic alliances, love today is often seen as a personal choice. Yet, freedom comes at a price. Cicero and Livia found courage in their passion, even when everything seemed to be against them. Although they could not marry, they became icons of a love that challenged expectations. On the other hand, Sophia and Ethan also face challenges. In a world where independence is celebrated, the fear of loneliness and anxiety about future commitments can generate insecurities. What if I give myself completely and everything goes wrong? Sophia asked Ethan during a conversation at a seaside bar. If we don't risk our hearts, we'll never know how deep love can be, he replied, holding her hand tenderly. We must learn from past experiences and move forward. As we reflect on the evolution of romances between men and women, we see that while circumstances change, the essence of love remains the same, the pursuit of connection, understanding, and authenticity. Whether in the intrigues of ancient Rome, where love was a game of power and subterfuge, or in the complexities of modern love, where freedom is valued, the human heart continues to seek the same primal yearning, to be loved and understood. The stories of Cicero and Livia, and Sophia and Ethan, teach us that, regardless of the historical context, love is a force that challenges, inspires, and transforms us. The first light of dawn illuminated the magnificent columns of the Roman Forum, presenting a spectacle of shadows and light dancing to the rhythm of the city's awakening. Once again, Vibius, a young patrician, found himself facing a dilemma: how to make his meeting with Claudia truly memorable. Claudia was a young woman of stunning beauty, blessed with a sharp mind and an indomitable spirit. The daughter of an influential senator, her life was marked by social obligations. Arranged marriages and family interests dictated her steps, but Vibius was determined to win her heart, even if it meant challenging the conventions of the time. That morning, after a simple breakfast, Vibius decided he needed a special touch for the encounter. He left his villa, walking through the still quiet streets while the first notes of a flute echoed through the squares. The city was alive, and he wanted Claudia to feel that energy. Vibius stopped at a flower shop where the aroma of fresh blooms filled the air. He chose a bouquet of violets, flowers that represented faith and protection, a perfect symbol of his feelings. These flowers are for a special woman, the florist commented with a smile as Vibius imagined how he would love to see Claudia's smile upon receiving the gift. Finally arriving at the Pantheon, where the sun met the gods in an embrace of light, Vibius spotted her. Claudia was there, wearing a light linen tunic that flowed with the wind, her presence radiant like the sun itself. Vibius's heart raced. The emotion was palpable. He wanted that day etched in their memories forever. Vibius! Claudia exclaimed upon seeing him, her eyes sparkling. He approached, presenting her with the violets with a tender gesture. For you, my muse, he said, his shyness fading as his words flowed with sincerity. Claudia smiled, accepting the flowers and bringing them to her chest. You always know how to surprise me, she replied, her eyes revealing a mix of joy and curiosity. Together, they decided to explore what Rome had to offer. The two young people walked along the cobblestone streets, from the Forum to the banks of the Tiber. Eager to impress, Vibius led Claudia through the Trajan market, where the pulsating hum of daily life surrounded them. The aroma of spices and the clinking of coins created a symphony that transported them to a world of sensations. Did you know that traders here come from as far away as Egypt and Persia? Vibius remarked while watching merchants sell exotic products. Rome is a pulsating heart of cultures. Claudia smiled, enchanted. And I am merely an observer, admiring the beauty of our world. After exploring the market, Vibius took Claudia to a quaint hidden tavern, where they could share laughter and stories. They enjoyed wine and tasted local dishes, each bite accompanied by tales intertwining their lives and hopes. The wine brought out genuine laughter and deep conversation about their dreams. Claudia spoke of her longing to escape the bonds of tradition, while Vibius articulated his desire to be more than just a patrician in search of prestige. The connection between them grew, each word shaping a world that seemed to belong solely to them. At one point, while Vibius recited verses from Ovid, Claudia's eyes lit up. You make me believe that there can be more than what is imposed upon us, she said, her eyes emotional. And it was through these small moments of truth that, without realizing it, a new bond began to form between them. As the day drew to a close and the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over Rome, Vibius and Claudia found themselves by the Tiber. It was the perfect moment for a declaration. The warmth of their conversation grew, just like the tension between them. Claudia, Vibius began, holding her hands. This day has been more than I could have ever imagined. You make me want to break all the rules for you. She looked into his eyes, understanding the unspoken words. And you make me believe that, perhaps, I can be more than just a symbol of alliance. Can we write our own story? Before the stars began to twinkle in the twilight sky, they shared a soft kiss, a touch that promised their souls were connected in a way that defied any expectation. As Vibius walked her home, both knew that day would mark their lives forever. They were ready to face whatever came next, together. Ancient Rome, with all its conventions and traditions, could never erase what they had created on that single, brilliant day. And so, under the watchful eyes of the gods, began a story that, like many in ancient Rome, would be told through generations. A story of love, rebellion, and above all, the pursuit of freedom in a true relationship. In grand ancient Rome, where the majestic columns of eternal architecture rose toward the sky, relationships were complex, reflecting both the glory and the challenges of daily life. Amidst this backdrop, two figures stood out: Marcus, an influential aristocrat, and Julia, a free-spirited woman. As their lives intertwined in a relationship that defied social norms, a series of lessons about love, commitment, and freedom emerged, resonating through the centuries and finding relevance in modern life. The encounter between Marcus and Julia was no mere coincidence. It was an animation of opposites. Marcus, educated in the finest schools of Rome, was known for his eloquence and ambition. On the other hand, Julia, despite being the daughter of a successful merchant, nourished a burning desire for independence and adventure. Fate presented itself during the Saturnalia festival, a time when the city indulged in exuberant celebrations and the rules seemed to dissolve a little. "Do you really believe that status defines a person's worth?" Julia questioned as she teased Marcus with a mischievous smile. "I believe that actions speak louder than titles," Marcus replied, intrigued by her wit. "But who says we can't have both?" From that moment on, a deep connection formed between them, bringing not only love but also questions that challenged their perceptions of relationships. As time went on, Marcus and Julia learned that communication was the bridge that united them. In a world where marriages were arranged and feelings were often ignored, the ability to share thoughts and emotions was a rarity. One day, while walking through the forum, Marcus noticed that Julia seemed restless. "What troubles you?" he asked. "What if I'm not made for the life that society expects of me?" Julia confided, her gaze distant. "I want to be more than what people define for me." Giving voice to what we feel is the first step toward freedom, Marcus encouraged her, realizing that honesty was the key that opened the doors to a healthy relationship. The freedom that Julia so desired did not mean the absence of commitment. Commitment, for them, was an act of courage. After many meetings and deep conversations, Marcus decided to open up about his own fears. "I fear that if we commit, you will feel trapped." "But commitment can be liberating," Julia replied confidently. "It's not about losing freedom, it's about sharing what we seek together." This fire of commitment became a principle in their lives. They realized that commitment was not restriction, but rather a mutual empowerment that allowed them to explore their individualities more broadly. Like any relationship, Marcus and Julia were not immune to misunderstandings. One stormy afternoon, at the height of an argument, Marcus exclaimed, "Don't you understand how society sees us? Our names and our families. There are so many expectations." Julia responded with frustration, "Can't you see that we are more than that? What matters is what we are building between us, not what society thinks." After the emotional storm, both realized that misunderstandings were opportunities for growth. The true test of love is not the absence of conflict, but the passion for overcoming it together, Marcus reflected later, looking into Julia's eyes. One morning, while walking along the banks of the Tiber, Julia shared her desire to travel. "I dream of seeing the world, far from the obligations that bind us." "Then let's live in the present," Marcus suggested. "Life is ephemeral, and we should cherish the time we have together instead of clinging to the past or future." The idea of living in the present transformed their relationship. They decided to explore the beauties of Rome, appreciate simple moments, and celebrate life, creating memories that would stay with them forever. Years passed, and Marcus and Julia continued to teach each other about love, freedom, and the beauty of sincere commitments. The lessons they learned in their journey forged not only their relationship but also a legacy that would echo through future generations. Today, as we reflect on the challenges and triumphs of modern relationships, we can find inspiration in the stories of Marcus and Julia. Communication, commitment, and the ability to live in the present teach us that love, in all its forms, is an art that we should cultivate. As we look to the past, we find the seeds of wisdom that continue to bloom in our time. We can carry these lessons into our own relationships, ensuring that love always prevails.
Hey there, everyone. We've reached the end of our amazing journey through ancient Rome, where love and conquest danced together amidst luxurious banquets and strict traditions. We saw how the Romans valued status and education, and how this shaped their relationships. Remember the young patrician who used charming words to impress the beautiful lady? And young Lucia, surrounded by admirers, showed us that romance and strategy were always lurking nearby. We talked about the important role of women in Roman society and how, even under the rules of the time, they managed to exert influence within their families. We were also captivated by the vibrant feasts and celebrations, where flirting took place amidst dances and music, proving that love always finds a way to shine, even in challenging times. We encountered stories of courage and true love, like Flavia and Caio, who defied social expectations to fight for what they truly desired. And of course, we learned that despite all traditions, sincere love will always find a way. So, next time you think of romance, remember the Romans. They taught us that the heart is not confined to rules, it always seeks connection, understanding, and a touch of adventure. And who knows? A bit of the passion of ancient Rome still lives within each of us. Until next time.